Hello and welcome back. Now a beautiful July 27th morning out here. Looks like it's going to be another warm and sunny week. Right now there's less smoke than there was last week, so at least that's a plus. But no rain in sight in the forecast yet. But we are getting closer to desiccation time and a lot of pulses. So right now I'm just out here checking out a canola field. Not too much to report in here, very low insect numbers. But this is the time of the year and the stage of the canola we're going to have to really start watching for lygus and nymph numbers exploding. But right now this field, not a problem. Dryland barley is turning color really quick. This is always kind of a depressing time of the year for me when I see these fields ripening up, and I feel like summer has just blown by. But you can see with these moisture conditions, these heads are ripening really quick. So some of these heads are at physiological maturity and starting to dry down here now. So that's a huge change, even just from last week. It's amazing what a few 30 some odd days will do, but you can still see we're quite green. So we still have a little ways to go, and there is still some green heads mixed in this field as well. Well, here's that canola field that got hailed out 100% a few weeks ago, and from this angle it looks great when you're driving by. It's pretty much in full bloom, but once you walk into it and you start looking down, you can see it is definitely pretty thin. You can see a lot of those old stalks from where it was destroyed earlier, but it is doing its best at trying to set pods and fill those pods out, and there is going to be some yield here, but without rain I think it's going to start to dry up here pretty quick. Well, it's that time of the year again. All these yellow pea fields are maturing really quickly, especially up around this barrens area here. The sandier soil is drying out, and that's really pushing maturity fast. So that's relatively normal this time of the year. A lot of the time we are harvesting these by the end of the first week of August. So it's time to start talking about desiccation. You can see we still got lots of green plants behind me here. Let's take a closer look. Okay, you can see in these guys here, we still have some very, very green pods on the upper. These are going to need more time, probably maybe by the end of the week they're going to be there. We want them looking more like this on the top, so they're getting a little bit leathery and tough, and we want those bottom pods to basically be rattling, and we're just not quite there yet. This field is going to need a few more days. There's also a couple different ways you can go about desiccating a field like this. We usually think about it as two main products. There's Regulone Ion and it's clones, and that is going to be a really good fit for a field like this. It's relatively clean, relatively nice and even. We can come in, we can hit that in the evening, and then the next day when the sun comes out, it's going to rapidly burn that crop down and break open those tissues, cause the plant to dry out. You're going to be in the field probably in a week. Now, if you're really struggling with weeds, especially things like Canada thistle, this field doesn't have patches of it, but I do have a few fields that do, then you're way better off using a product like Heat with glyphosate. It's going to take more time, probably at least 10 to 14 days after application, but if weed control is more important than a quick dry down, then I would certainly go that way. You'll be a lot happier with the results. Really, with Regulone or other products similar to it, you're going to get rapid burn down, but you're really not going to get anything meaningful really for weed control. Here in this field of yellow peas, you can see we got some pretty big green areas out in this field yet. Unfortunately, too windy to fly the drone here today, so I can't take an overhead shot, but there's still quite a bit of what you'd call grass green in this field, so it's going to need a few more days to dry out and ripen. Well, at least the corn is really loving this heat. You can see we're about 1 lisle tall now. It might even be a little bit taller if it wasn't for the wind kind of blowing everything over today, but overall she's looking good, developing well. Should have some good potential in here, even though it is off to a little bit of a late start from some early season issues. Well, my small plot trials are all looking pretty good. Well, as good as you can expect given these weather conditions, drying out pretty rapidly. It's a good thing I took all my flag leaf tissue samples here last week, because this week those flag leaves are rapidly drying out. These heads for the most part are starting to fill. We're solidly in the milk stage. They're still very, very soft here. So we still have a ways to go. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to have too much of a chance of picking up any more moisture in here, but should be interesting to see. I have got my tissue sample results back from last week, but I haven't had a chance to really look at them. That's going to kind of be post-season, go over all the information from this. Just walking up to check this canola field here and happened to look down on the ground and seen this absolute unit of a caterpillar down here. So when you take a closer look at this guy, you can see he's got the big spike on his butt end down here. So that'd be a hawk moth caterpillar. So this guy's going to turn into a really big moth here eventually, but it looks like he was just absolutely mowing down on this knotweed here, or poverty weed, feeding on it. So certainly can't be mad at him about that, as long as he stays away from the canola. Well, back in that field of barley with such a terrible quack grass problem, as you can see, it is currently getting silaged off, but you can see we have quite a stand of quack grass between the rows and mixed in, and especially in places like this right here. So all this stuff in between the rows is all quack grass. So in order to manage this, what we really need to do, we really got to try to get a handle on it this year. What we want to do is we want to let this recover for at least probably 7 to 10 days, and then we can do a really good burn off once we have some new leaf material and some regrowth on that quack grass. If we were to come in and seed this field first, what ends up happening is all these quack grasses are all connected underground by rhizomes, and those rhizomes are quite shallow. You can see right here. So if you come in and even, knife in some oats, even 1 inch deep, what you're gonna end up doing is ripping up all these shallow roots, these rhizomes, and then we're gonna get more plants. So we would be able to kill the plants like this that have regrowth, but basically by ripping up those roots, we're going to get a whole bunch of new growth that is not going to be controlled. So something to keep in mind when it comes to dealing with quack grass, you really got to treat it like a Canada thistle. We want to spray it before we disturb those roots. We want to get as much glyphosate systemically into those rhizomes as we possibly can. I'm out in some trials with Bruce from BASF, so he's talking about the new Liberty variety that's coming out, the stack trait. What can you tell us about it today?
Thanks, Lyle. So we're going to be introducing a mid-maturity new stack trait, LR347. So definitely earlier than what we have in our LR354. Maturity is very comparable if you're used to 401, and we're looking forward to it. Good vigor out of the ground, standability is pretty good, and the pod set has been really nice here. So the maturity definitely helps in an area where we're getting out here in south of McGrath, where the maturity is important, so that we're keeping it earlier than later, so we beat the heat and get it off in case we had a frost in the fall. So looking forward to getting the data. We've got lots of different trials, whether on irrigation or dry land, to check for its suitability for a lot of different geographies. So looking forward to having the advantage of spraying a Roundup in TrueFlex and a Liberty and for resistant weeds like wild oats and kochia. So more to come on invigorresults.ca when we get some harvest done.
Excellent. This plot is looking great so far. I can't wait to see the results. Taking a look at some second crop oats today, and these guys are looking pretty good. There is a bit of pigtailing and stress on the leaf tips, and that is just from the absolute horrendous heat we've had the last week or so here. There is some aphids I am seeing in here. Oh, that one just fell off when I looked for it here. Oh, there's another one down right in there. So we are starting to become worried at this time of the year about barley yellow dwarf virus moving into oats, but usually the first symptom you will see will be stunting of your oats. You'll see patches that are becoming stunted and delayed, and that will usually occur before you will see that leaf color change to that orange or yellow or reddish burgundy color. That is usually your defining characteristic of that viral disease. It is spread by aphids. I am not seeing any in here so far. This is Wesley, which is a resistant variety of oats, which I highly recommend growing in this Park Lake area where this disease can be particularly devastating. Typically, once we hit growth stage like this and we're into stem elongation, even if we were to get it now, symptoms probably will not be terribly severe. It'll probably grow through it and be just fine, but it can be really severe if it is infected before the 4-leaf stage. That's typically when we see basically almost 100% yield loss in affected areas. But right now, this field is looking pretty good. I don't see any sign of it here. What you're seeing here is the reason why it's getting really hard to sell any TrueFlex or Roundup Ready canola anymore. All this kochia in here is, it's patchy throughout this field, but you can see there's just kochia throughout this field here. And this field wasn't particularly bad for kochia, I would say, but even 2 passes at 3/4 of a liter in crop, even with crimson, is just unable to control Roundup resistant kochia, of course. So more and more, if you're not growing a Liberty link to control the kochia, you should at least be growing a stacked so that we can control the kochia when it's small with Liberty and the wild oats with glyphosate. Dryland fall rye down here is looking pretty good, but what you're seeing here is basically all tiller growth. Those mature main stem heads are all lower down in the canopy because of the drought conditions earlier in spring. The main stems are quite short, so they are looking pretty good. We are pretty much right at the end of soft dough, coming into hard dough. Those heads are starting to mature pretty rapidly. Swath timing to get maximum yield from those would be in probably a week or two. But most of these tillers are in kind of milk to soft dough stage here, and there's going to be significant yield in these, so we'll probably wait for these. The risk of waiting for them is these tillers are going to be more susceptible to having high amounts of ergot, which is what happened in here last year as well, in the same place. And already I can start to see it here. Just walking in, I just found this ergot body sticking out of this head. So there is a few here. I wouldn't say the number is certainly not as severe as it was last year, but it is definitely here. So even if we were to swath as early as we can to try to protect that main stem yield, that ergot is already here in the tillers, and we're not going to save anything by swathing early. Well, that'll be it for this week. Next week, I'm sure we're going to see a lot more ripening, especially if it stays as hot as forecasted, with potential for 35, 36 degrees over the weekend. So crops are going to come along real fast in a real hurry if we get that. So we'll see you then.